update number two. We are in phase one of three for the rollout of PrimeSync. And if perhaps you've been living under a rock, which, is not me throwing shade, but maybe you haven't heard about PrimeSync, right? You've been living under a rock. You've probably heard about it. All right. PrimeSync is going to continue to be rolled out progressively. We'll move into phase two and then phase three. And phase three is when everybody's going to have access. Right now, phase one is where we're at. We're in the process of working out some kinks to perfect this thing. And there's very few kinks, to be fair. Like we're in phase one and there's very few things that actually need to be worked out. But what I'll share is this in my experience using it so far in phase one. You guys are in for a treat. All right. This is something that so many, and Benson's talked about it, and it's true. So many companies have tried to create a tech like this and failed. All right. Because they don't have direct broker integration. There's, APIs being used instead of actual like direct integration. Or maybe they had something and it was okay, but it wasn't to the extent of PrimeSync. So just be prepared, okay, for when this goes live. When we get to the phase three of rollouts, that'll be when everybody inside of Primeverse has access. So what can you do to get ready in the meantime? And I want you to take note of this. This is really important. These are the steps that you can take proactively now to get ready for when this thing comes out. All right. Because you don't want to be the guy or gal that's like, this thing comes out and you're not ready to start using it immediately. And I'm going to explain exactly why these are the steps you should take right now as well. Okay. So step number one, and something that's important to consider, is you need to create a not a new P Prime account, not at all, a separate trading account, a separate MT5 trading account for PrimeSync because you can't use PrimeSync on your current manual trading account. It needs to be completely separate. So create a new separate MT5 trading account. The account type is kind of up to you. It can be standard, it can be Prime. I'm using standard. Most people are using standard, but Prime is totally okay. It can also be a cent account for those of you that are using that account type. Most of you are probably using standard. That's step number one. You have to create a new separate MT5 trading account. It can't be, you can't link your current trading account that you are taking your own trades on with PrimeSync. Okay, it has to be separate. And the reason for that is the PrimeSync trading account is going to be fully managed for you based on the settings that you set for yourself inside of PrimeSync. And it's important that you're not manually taking any trades on that account. It's just for trade ideas. It's just for PrimeSync, period. Point blank, period. Very, very important. In fact, it's one of the rules for using PrimeSync. You actually cannot take any trades manually on the PrimeSync account that you're using. So that's very important to consider. Now, step number two, the minimum for using PrimeSync, and you might be like, oh, why is there a minimum deposit? This is for risk management purposes. To effectively be using PrimeSync the way it's meant to be used, it is a 1K minimum deposit for connecting to PrimeSync. Two things to consider. Number one, you can use the deposit bonus and it's based on your equity. So if you have a 100% deposit bonus that you haven't used, you can use that deposit bonus to have your equity floating at 1,000, and that's totally fine. Okay, so if you do $500 deposit and it's a 100% deposit bonus that you're using, you're going to have equity at $1,000 and you'll be good to go. All right. And again, this is in accordance to the risk management rules that PrimeSync is going to be using. And second consideration is maybe you're thinking to yourself, damn, Donnie, I have the 20% deposit bonus. I already used the 100% one, but $1,000 is quite a bit. And I'm not sure I have that money right now. Well, guess what? I'm sharing this with you well in advance to when phase three of rollouts is going to begin. So you have time to figure this out because I promise you, if you didn't know about this and PrimeSync dropped, you'd probably be cheesed because you're like, damn, I can't connect to this right away. So you've got time. I'm not sure how long. It might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, it might be a month, it might be a day. Okay. For when phase three rolls out, I actually genuinely do not know. We don't have a timeline officially because we're working out all the kinks. It could take some time, but it could also be quick. So do your best to be prepared for this. All right. Be prepared for this. Figure out how you can increase your income right now to get to a point where you have $1,000 liquid to work with and to connect to PrimeSync. Okay. That is really the only requirement for PrimeSync. And again, it's to do with the risk management rules. Step three, figure out how you want to, and you can think about this. You'll be able to really decide this with a lot more clarity when you're actually using PrimeSync because you can see all the different settings. You can see how you want to have it structured. But step three is to consider what you want your settings to be. So what I mean by that is, and this again, it's just going to make it so that when PrimeSync drops, you can just start using it immediately. Okay. If you already have a separate trading account, it's already funded with 1,000 USD. You've already considered the settings. You're going to be bing, bang, boom, done and set up as soon as this thing drops. All right. So you're going to be able to get started a lot quicker than most people that maybe weren't aware of these steps and things to do before PrimeSync drops. So step three, consider what settings you want your, consider what you want your settings to be. So you have the risk setting, which is really anywhere from 0.1% to 3% max risk per trade. So this is an important point to consider is how much do you want to be risking per trade? There's going to be some weeks where there's plenty of wins with very few losses. There's going to be some weeks where there's maybe a few more losses. Okay. Generally speaking, the trade over trade consistency that the entire signal provider team has is really good. Okay. We're talking 70, 80% plus accuracy. Think about that and consider this. This is going to be different for everybody here. If you're connecting with $50,000 to PrimeSync, you probably aren't going to need to do 3% risk per trade. And that might be, outside your risk appetite. Figure out what it's going to be, though, between this 0.1% as the minimum to 3% risk per trade. Secondly, is you want to figure out, and my recommendation is going to be all providers, by the way, but which providers do you want to auto copy? Because here's the thing to consider with PrimeSync is you have the ability to auto copy every single idea that's being sent from any provider. IFVG King, D Trades, Golden Bull, all these, Alchemist, all the different providers, all the different signal providers and their code names, you can set to auto copy individually. So you can choose to auto copy every single provider, which is what I think most people are going to do because everybody is consistent and it's great. You're just gonna, it's gonna be fully on autopilot every single provider. Or you can have auto copy to, maybe your favorite providers, and then you can just swipe to accept the other providers as their trades are being shared. So if you choose not to auto copy, but you see a notification, new idea from IFVG King, maybe you don't have IFVG, King set to auto copy, you can go in and you can swipe to accept that trade and it'll be based on your predetermined risk parameters. And it's fully executed for you, split risk into different positions with different TPs. It's really, really game changing what PrimeSync is doing. My recommendation, and I think what most people are going to do, is just set auto copy to every single provider. Okay. That way you're not missing a single trade. Maybe there's somebody that, you know, is going to be asleep one night and wake up the next morning to a TP5 smacking on golds and they missed that setup because auto copy wasn't on. All right. And that's going to sting a little bit because you're like, dang, that was a 400 pip move on gold. You think about doing the math on that with the smallest lot size. That's a pretty good move. That's a good move. All right. With the smallest lot size, you're doing pretty well with a 400 pip move. So again, that's my recommendation. That's what I'm doing personally. But again, you guys have the flexibility to choose which providers, and what I mean by that is the code names, right? Which signal providers do you want to auto copy? Really, the last thing to consider is what you want your risk or kind of drawdown tolerance to be. And it can be anywhere from 10% to 30%. And it can actually be even less than 10%. 10% is the default. I think it's like, what is the minimum? 5%, maybe a little bit less than that too. And we're actually going to call this equity protection because that's what it's actually called in settings. Consider your equity protection 5% to 30%. So these are the three settings that I think are going to be the most important for you to reflect on prior to, PrimeSync releasing. That way, as soon as PrimeSync releases, boom, you're good to go. Now, a lot of you are probably like, just give me the best settings, Donnie. And I'm going to tell you, I've been using PrimeSync for 72 hours, less than 72 hours. So the settings that I'm using probably aren't the best settings. I mean, there's not going to be a best setting to have. It's going to just be based on you. So don't worry about what I'm using. Don't worry about what other, traders are using. Just figure out for yourself, okay, what makes the most sense for you. Do you want to risk, you know, 1% per trade, 2% per trade, 3% per trade, less than 1%? Which providers do you want to auto copy? Probably everybody. But maybe, reflect on that, take a look through some of the signals in the Telegram and see, who's been crushing it. Okay, and you'll actually be able to see on PrimeSync the traders or the providers, their win rate, the number of trades they've shared, etc. So you can see that data on PrimeSync, which is really cool. And then consider your equity protection. So what do you want your equity protection to be? And basically what this is, for those of you that are, unaware, is essentially if that drawdown were to ever reach what this number is that you've set it to, it will auto close the positions based on your equity protection rule. Now, if you think about 30%, you might be like, that's insane. 30% of $1,000, the minimum is $300. It's going to be quite unlikely that that's a reality if you're using less than 3% risk per trade. If you're using 3% risk per trade, there could be, a number of positions that are executed. And maybe in the very unlikely scenario, there were 10 trades in drawdown risking 3% each. That'll bring you to that 30% equity protection limit, perhaps. Again, very unlikely, very, very unlikely. But again, this is not about making money. It's about keeping and preserving capital over time. And this is why it's so important that you create a completely separate and new account and you're not trading on it. It's literally a rule. If you trade on it, you're going to lose access to PrimeSync, period. This is about automation. This is about actual tangible results, removing the human error element of trading. It's literally the most game-changing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. PrimeSync, truly. I've been in the industry for almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years in April. I've never seen anything like this. And the reason I'm so fired up and I'm doing this training for you guys right now is so that you can take advantage of this right when it drops. Okay, immediately. And really think about the beautiful thing with these trade ideas right now is when, right? You know, a consistency from trade ideas. But let's be honest, there are times where we'll execute a trade, copy and pasting it into our own MT5 and get a different entry price, have a different trade management than other people. Like let's say we go break even before, we're instructed to based on the signal, we get hit break even, other people hold and it smashes TP3. That's a human error. Really, it's not even an error, it's just a human choice that intervened with that trade when it could have potentially went to TB3. You just ended up experiencing a break even. Or you took a trade a little bit later and the entry was already floating in profit, so your risk to reward got skewed because you didn't take the trade right when it was sent out as a signal. PrimeSync resolves all of that. You are going to mechanically be able to choose when your trades auto break even. You're going to be able to mechanically choose precisely exactly how much you're closing of your position at TP1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you have all five, on a particular idea. It's going to remove human error entirely because as soon as the signal is sent, it's simultaneously executing to everybody's account at the same price that's connected to PrimeSync. Think about that for a second. Automatically, if you have auto copy on. So this is really a game-changing thing. It's not going to matter if you're on a date, if you're asleep, if you're awake but busy, occupied, whatever the case is. This is going to mean you're never missing a signal, period, from the providers that you're setting to auto copy. That in and of itself is game changing. And then you take into consideration all the human error that comes with trading and the fact that practically all of that is eliminated. It's just absolutely insane to think about. So again, just to make this screenshot worthy, and you guys can share this with your teams. This is something I would highly encourage you to do if you're an IB on this call, is send them this screenshot and say, hey, Donnie just did a training this morning on his session. This is really, really important for you to do and consider so that you can get set up with PrimeSync as soon as it drops. All right, go ahead and take a screenshot of that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do the same thing. Really, the reason I'm even doing this is so that I can just send the recording to my people. So, is everybody clear on that? Okay, let me get some threes in the chat for step one, two, and three if you're going to be putting yourself in a position to take advantage of PrimeSync right when it drops based on these three steps.